Hey friends, we are in week 6 of the pantry challenge that Jessica's hosting over at the Three Rivers Homestead. And it is actually called the Three Rivers Challenge. And I'm going to go ahead and get started on this week's meals. So this recipe is a sourdough pecan cookie. And I do have maple extract in it. So we are going to start off with a 1 egg. And then we have a stick and a half of butter. Of course, I have some pecans here. I got some baking soda and blackstrap molasses. I have some sea salt. And then I have some sugar here and my sourdough discard. And then I have a mixing bowl. These were so good. I will definitely be making these again. So to the bowl, we are going to be adding some flour, about 2 cups. And then you can also use your freshly milled flour for this recipe. I would just let the grains soak in the butter and the sourdough starter, as well as the extract for a good 20 minutes. And then I'm going to add a level teaspoon of baking soda. I just make sure when I'm baking, I level everything out, or I usually measure it if it's in grams. These are actually not too sweet of a cookie. They're just got a hint of sweetness and a hint of maple syrup extract. I'm adding a teaspoon of salt and 1 egg, about a medium-sized egg. My chickens aren't laying very much right now, so I'm only getting 2 a day. Hopefully this spring I will get 6 a day from my little chickens. And then I'm adding about a half a cup of brown sugar and a 1/4 cup of regular granulated sugar. So what I just do to make my brown sugar is I add blackstrap molasses, and that's how I usually make it too. I usually have it made up and I put it in my container. But today I did not, and I wanted to get these made in a hurry, so I just did it the easy way and just added it to my bowl. And then I'm adding the rest of the sugar here. The reason why I'm adding my active sourdough starter is because I fed it to make some bread and bagels. So I'm going to be adding about 1/2 cup of this active starter to the mix. And I chose to use a maple because I thought it would go perfect with these pecan cookies. You can use vanilla extract if you like. They would be just as delicious. So I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of maple syrup extract. You can use about 1 or 2. I didn't really get big hints of maple, but it was still really good. So next time I make this, I'm going to be adding 2 teaspoons. I'm going to melt this butter up in the microwave. And then we're going to get everything incorporated and get the nuts chopped and put in there. And we are going to make little balls and put them on our silicone mats and bake these at 350 degrees for 10 to 13 minutes. One thing that I've noted in this challenge is that I saved a ton of money just using my sourdough starter and a bunch of recipes and all these goodies that I've been making, these desserts, and then all the bread and bagels that I make every week. I found that buying yeast, I was just guessing on ordering from Amazon if it was going to be good or not, if it was active, how old it actually was. And then when you buy yeast at the store, you can only get these little cups of it or in these glass jars or in little packets. And that little amount will do nothing for me. So we're going to get these pecans chopped up, and I'm going to be adding about 2/3 cups. And then we're going to get those incorporated and then get them rolled into their little shapes, into little balls, and then baked in the oven. I believe that this challenge has definitely challenged us by making everything from scratch, and that's why I loved using my home canned goods too. It's saved us so much. With the fact that it's so convenient, and the other fact that we had harvested, and then we've also purchased from the Amish, so I believe that has saved a lot of money for us too, just doing everything from scratch. The one thing that I've noticed is that we will need to grow more potatoes and collard greens. I need to actually catch that lady that grows the corn on time, because I ran out of corn, and that is my favorite corn. And let's see what else. I'm definitely missing my canned chicken. I usually have a whole bunch canned up, but I did feed the dogs with it. So what I usually do with my canned chicken is I make ugly chicken pizzas, and I just make homemade chicken soup that are really fast and easy by throwing some frozen vegetables in with some chicken stock broth and some of that ugly chicken, and it's really quick and easy and amazing. And these are how our sourdough maple pecan cookies turned out. Super delicious. I've given a whole bunch away and everyone loved them. On this night, I am going to do my version of a ragu of just what I have around the house. So I have an onion here, some celery, a couple carrots I needed to use up. I have pepper, salt, and I also have some nutmeg here. I'm just going to put a little sprinkle of that. And I have some whole bay leaves. I'm just going to put 1 or 2 in there. And then I also have tomato paste, and I'm going to add a tablespoon of that. My home canned pasta, this is the one I had to use first, and then some stewed tomatoes that I had canned as well. And I'm going to be just cooking up this pen pasta, and that'll go really good with this ragu sauce that I'm making. So on the stove now I have a pound of hamburger browning. I'm going to let that get all nice and brown, and then while that's getting brown, we're going to chop up the veggies, and we are going to get the water boiling so we can cook those noodles as well. And this turned out to be so good. I love ragu. We love it with hamburger or a roast. It doesn't matter to me. It's all delicious. So I just added a little bit of salt in to this, and I'm going to add a little bit of oil so it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to get going on peeling and shredding the carrots, and then I'm going to dice up the celery really small. I was inspired to make this from a new book that I had gotten for Christmas. It's called Pasta Grannies, and it has so many wonderful recipes in there. I can't wait to show you guys, but I have to start small and then work my way up because there's so many amazing recipes in this. And I had a friend buy me a pasta maker, so I just want to say thank you so much, Steve. And I'm going to be making pasta hopefully from scratch soon. That is going to be so much fun. And I'd like to make some and then store some away in a 5-gallon bucket so I don't have to keep on making, because I know it's a little process, and I know it takes up time, but I can't wait to show you guys that. So I'm chopping up this onion, and I'm using about a medium-sized Vidalia onion. It's a little bit sweet. I'm almost out of my onions that I purchased from the Amish, so I'm going to be sad about that. And the other thing that I'm almost out of is my collard greens, so that's really sad. We use collard greens in so much. So I'm going to be popping all these scraps in the freezer. I usually save them for my chicken bone broth or my turkey bone broth, and that'll add layers of flavor to any soup or broth. So that's why I save that, because I don't like to waste anything. All right, now we're going to add these veggies to the hamburger, add our spices and our sauces, and get this ragu going. So I'm going to fry these up just to get the onions kind of translucent and the veggies a little bit cooked. And then I'm going to add a little bit of spices to the mix. For spices, I'm going to just add salt and pepper. I'm adding a little bit of olive oil so it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to get that all mixed up, and then we are going to go ahead and add the secret ingredient. I'm going to grab my nutmeg and a little grater, and I'm going to add about 1/4 teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon. Just a little bit, just to add a little bit of flavor. Kind of like, what is that flavor? The next ingredient is a tablespoon of tomato paste, and then I'm adding my crushed tomatoes, a whole pint, and then 1/4 of my home canned tomato sauce. And try not to splash it everywhere. And then I'm going to be adding a bay leaf to this and give it a good stir. I'm going to also be letting that cook for at least 1 hour to 2 hours. But instead of boring you, I just showed you the end results. So we are going to be boiling this pasta up real quick. I added oil and a little bit of salt, about a teaspoon of each. I get those al dente, and we're going to get dinner put together. It's just an easy, quick comfort meal that you worked really hard on that everyone can enjoy. And we definitely love these leftovers. So I added just a little bit of extra salt and pepper to taste. I also added a tablespoon of sugar that I forgot to show to cut the acid levels. And dinner is all ready. I'm serving dinner with 2 pieces of sourdough toast with some butter on it. And the sauce looks amazing. The ragu turned out so good. So I'm going to get this all dished up, and we are going to enjoy dinner tonight. I do have bread rising. I have sourdough bread. I make 2 loaves at a time, and that's at its first rise. And then over here I have my bagel dough rising. That just rises overnight, no folding, so that's pretty simple. I have both of these recipes on my blog as well. And dinner is going to be an Asian-inspired dinner with chicken and broccoli tonight. So I did feed my sourdough starter, and I'm going to be showing you another wonderful sourdough recipe. It's like a cookie bar, but it's a really healthy cookie bar. It's actually a sourdough peach strudel bar, but I call it a cookie bar because it reminds me of a cookie. And this recipe will also be on my blog. And I'm going to be using my jam that I made with my peaches that I had purchased from the Amish and made all kinds of peach preserves. And that's the peach jam that I preserved this year. And that is so delicious. I have some honey and flour and oats. And this is my baking dish that I use for everything with some parchment paper in it. And then I am going to be adding some pecans on the top. And in here I do have my quick oats because that's all I have left. I did feed my sourdough starter. And we are going to get going on this recipe. So in this bowl I have 2 cups of oats, and then I'm adding a 1/3 cup of honey. I'm trying to be good and use honey for sweetening my desserts because it's more natural that way and it's healthier for you. This is one of my husband's and I's favorite snack because we are trying to be healthy. Even though there's honey in it, it's still super good for you with the oats, and the honey is really good for you, and of course a sourdough starter, and that is good for gut health. I have melted butter here, 1/2 of a cup. You can actually also use beef tallow, coconut oil, or butter, and then you can also use palm fruit shortening. And I chose to use butter because I had that in my fridge. And then I'm adding 1 cup of flour. I've actually substituted butter for beef tallow in the cinnamon roll recipe that I made, and it turned out so good. I couldn't even tell the difference. So you can use any hard fat. I wouldn't suggest using bacon or hamburger grease or anything, but substituting butter with beef tallow or palm fruit shortening or coconut oil works really well. Of course I wasn't prepared and I had to go fishing for my 1/3 cup, and now my starter is sticking to me. But that's okay, we're gonna get it out of the other measuring cup and into the bowl. And then we're gonna give this a nice stir, and then we're going to actually save some for the topping. So you don't want to press all this mixture down on the bottom of the lined pan with parchment paper. You just want to reserve just a little bit for the top because it is a strudel bar. So I did reserve about 1/2 cup. And I almost forgot the salt. I added a teaspoon of salt at the last minute and then just made sure it was mixed very well. Now for the fun part. We are going to take this dough and press it down the best we can. We are going to make 1 little inch or 1/2 inch layer. And then we are going to take our beautiful jam and then we're going to make a thin layer of jam on top. So I use about 1 whole cup. If you would like, you can add a little more. Because it kind of melts into it and it makes a nice thin wonderful layer of jam. And then we're gonna add a little bit of the strudel on top. So I saved about 1/2 cup of strudel to put on top, and then I just added about 1/3 cup of chopped pecans. And I have my oven preheating at 350 degrees, and because I have such a thick pan, I cook this for 40 to 45 minutes. So you see how I'm just making a nice thin layer. I used 1 cup of jam, and that makes it really tasty. And then you're gonna let it cool after you bake it for 40 to 45 minutes, and then you can cut it into little strips. So it looks like little granola bars, but they're actually strudel bars. These are so delicious, and you can store them in your freezer for up to 3 months. All right, here they are, the final reveal of our sourdough peach strudel bars. And I think my hubby was so excited he was waiting for a piece. I don't blame him. I had to try a bite right away too. What I love about these recipes is you can make them at your own. You can add whatever jam or jelly you have on hand. You don't have to add nuts. If you have allergies, you can just make it a plain strudel, and then you can add different jams to it. And then if you do like nuts, you can add cashews or almonds or anything. You can make it your own. You can make like a peanut butter and jelly strudel bar. It would be so delicious. And there's the handoff. And I'm gonna try myself a little bite, but don't these look so yummy? These are gonna go really fast. Now for our Asian inspired meal. So I have some chicken breast that I had in the freezer, some leftover broccoli florets. I'm going to be making brown rice with this turkey stock that I had. I had a quart of that, and then I have some fish sauce. And I have some sesame oil, some ground turmeric, onion powder. I have some garlic powder, salt, and pepper. And I'm also going to be adding Kikkoman soy sauce as well. I just forgot to show that. But I have my broccoli all chopped up, and I have my chicken all marinated in the spices, and I'm going to be cooking this all in the beef tallow that I had rendered a while ago, and now I have some of that stock going to cook the rice in, and it's going to be delicious. So I'm going to start by frying the chicken up and getting it nice and brown, and then we're going to add layers of flavor, and it's going to be so delicious. So I'm going to get this rice cooking. It's going to take a little while. And the chicken's nice and brown. I cut it up into little pieces, and I'm adding some liquid. I almost forgot to add a little pint of chicken bone broth to this because we need liquid, because I'm going to make it nice and thick like a sauce. We're adding our broccoli florets, about 1.5 cups. Get that all marinating, and then I'm getting my fish sauce, about 1 to 2 teaspoons, and then sesame oil. A little goes a long way. I've made that mistake many of times. And then I'm going to get my Kikkoman sauce, stir my rice here. I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of Kikkoman sauce, and that has plenty of salt in it. And that will and make it super yummy. I'm gonna give that a nice stir, and I decided that I'm gonna add some onion powder and garlic powder to the mix. And because I didn't add any fresh onions or fresh garlic, so I figure that will be a good substitute. This looks wonderful, but I would like to make it thicker. So I'm gonna be adding some arrowroot powder to it. The rice is cooking slow, so I'm gonna turn it up a little bit. But I'm adding about a 1/3 cup of arrowroot powder, and we're gonna get that all mixed up and let it thicken. And this is how dinner turned out this night. I'm gonna get it served up, and we are gonna really enjoy this dinner tonight. My husband and I love Asian food, and this quick and easy Asian meal, or Asian inspired meal, is so delicious. We really enjoyed this, and it hit the spot. It is the next morning. I put these in the bannetons, and I'm letting these rise for 6 more hours, covered with my beeswax wraps. I'm letting my bagels rise. I'm gonna put the holes in them, pop them in the boiling water, and then in the oven. And now we're gonna enjoy our breakfast. I decided I was gonna make grits and eggs and bagels for breakfast. You can store these bagels up to 3 months, and also my sourdough bread as well. But this is what breakfast looked like. I have my bagel all toasted here with some cream cheese on it, and I have grits and a couple of my water glass eggs. This is how our sourdough loaves turned out. They look so amazing. I can't wait to pop one of these open and try some with some butter on it. The last dinner that I wanted to show you was inspired by a book that I had gotten for Christmas. It is called The Complete Irish Pub Cookbook, and the recipe is winter vegetable cobbler. But it actually says in here, while a cobbler can be a fruit dessert similar to a crisp, any cobbler dish found on the menu in an Irish pub is more likely to be a main course or a side dish, not a dessert. Cobblers are typically meat stews topped with thick circles of biscuit-like dough, with each circle forming a separate cobble. And this in the book is a vegetarian version. I am making the meat version. So here I have like 4 or 5 potatoes. I have 3 carrots. I have a whole bag of black-eyed peas. And then I have 2 little beef shins in it. And I cook that all day with some turkey bone broth. And then I added a little pint of my chicken bone broth. So I added just a mixture of broths, and I added all the beans and the veggies and the 2 little pieces of meat. I cooked that for the whole day, and then I'm going to be adding the biscuits on top. The cobbler topping consists of 1 1/4 cup of flour, 2 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, 4 tablespoons of butter, and then I melted that, and then I shredded 1 cup of extra sharp cheddar cheese. And then for the spices, I added about a teaspoon of herbes de Provence, and then 1 egg lightly beaten. And the last thing you're going to need is 2/3 cups of milk. I kind of plopped a tablespoon of the biscuit mix all over the top part, and then I baked it for around 20 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Look at those biscuits. They're super cheesy and fluffy and amazing. It kind of looks like chicken and dumplings, but it is not. It is a black-eyed beef cobbler, and that's what I'm going to be calling it. So this Irish meal turned out so amazing. I will be cooking this again. And I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching my videos. If you're new, please consider subscribing. I hope you all have a beautiful week. Many blessings, and I will see you on the next video, friends.